Welcome back to Bets of the North. Doug Lesmerises and Tyler Shoemaker from the TShoe Index, ready to actually make some bets. We are going to, on this Friday morning show, every week, give you best bets, and then we're going to give you the two that really matter, that are like we're putting real money on it. So this is what we really love. There will be a best bet of the week, a real money best bet of the week that is going to come from TShoe, but I might help decide which of TShoe's things that we pick for that. And then we will have a plus money swing, we call it, where it's going to be maybe an underdog money line or a parlay or something that gets you to plus odds. And I'll usually maybe come up with that with TShoe's approval. And we will make actual bets with a $5,000 bankroll on those two bets each week. We'll bet $500 on the TShoe-led best bet, and we'll bet $50 or $100 on the underdog thing. TShoe, it's real.
It is real. We are officially back. I'm excited. I'm excited for the real money bets. I'm excited, obviously, for our other best bets. Hopefully, we can make some money, make the people some money, and definitely have some fun doing it for sure.
So TShoe's best bets, as always, are from math, from brain power, from science, from intelligence. And my best bets are from whatever the opposite of those things are. So we will also track the best bets. It won't just be with real money. And then on our social media accounts, on Instagram at KOTNCFB, on Twitter at KOTNCFB, unless it's okay, TShoe, like take a screenshot of your bet, right? It's not like the Russians can't hack you from a bet app screenshot, can they?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay, so we'll prove it. We'll do it. We're not just like, we'll prove that we're making these actual money bets. We have two best bets from TShoe, two from me, before we get into the $500 big money bet and the plus money swing. Before we do that, we are going to always record this show as late as we can on Thursday afternoon, so TShoe has the most recent information, right? So hopefully there's not guys getting hurt at the last second or anything. But it is messing you up a little bit, TShoe, this week for us to record on Thursday and not drop it to the people until Friday morning, because there are a couple Thursday night games that you do like that if they weren't on Thursday night, we might be dropping here as best bets.
Yeah, we would. Minnesota being one. So, by the time you're listening to this, you'll know the results of that game. But I actually bet Minnesota minus 1.5 early in the summer because that line touched Minnesota -3. So I was looking pretty good there for a while. And then here lately, as we've gotten to game week and more money comes in, the line's actually moved. Now North Carolina is a 1.5 or 2 point favorite, depending on where you look. So, I really like Minnesota in this game to win outright, but I definitely, would take the points if I could here.
And then you were dancing around with some San Jose State stuff on Thursday night too, weren't you?
Yeah, that's another one that I'll definitely be on. That is another game, again, that the market moved against me. Again, early in the season, especially, that doesn't bother me because people just don't know, especially on these FCS games, because San Jose State plays Sacramento State, which is an FCS team. So I think that line opens 7.5. It's down to 1.5, I think, at the time we're recording this Thursday night. So I will be on San Jose State minus something, or maybe I'll even get plus money. We'll see. It kicks off at 10 p.m. So I'll be on San Jose State in some capacity tonight.
So that, again, by the time you guys will have watched this, the Minnesota game will have happened. Couple injury things, couple possible lightning things with Minnesota. But if your numbers are telling you something, TShoe, there's some possible injury stuff with the two best skill guys for Minnesota, but it feels like they should have at least one of them. And so that is what it is. You don't know for sure. And then weather. How do you ever try to take weather into account or figure that I can't control the weather meteorologists are wrong sometimes? Is that something that you look at much?
Not so much with a thunderstorm necessarily, like we might be dealing with on Thursday night, but definitely as we get later in the season and we're obviously talking about some northern teams, snow definitely would have more of an impact, and wind. We obviously think about the Ohio State Northwestern game from a couple of years ago where the wind was insane. Like those type of things you certainly have to factor. But I think in most cases it's going to affect the total more than anything. But in extreme cases, again, the Northwestern game, that obviously favored the underdog in those circumstances, because the game's just going to be much tighter and teams are going to be much happier to just get out with a win.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Minnesota and North Carolina both like to run the ball. They both are starting new quarterback transfers. So again, that's more of a total discussion than it is, do you think that affects whether Minnesota can win or not? I do just want to point out to people, I am wearing my Rice hoodie from when TShoe and I did a show together 2 years ago. And for whatever reason, TShoe found Rice to be a moneymaker. So he got me this and the Lesmerises on the back. So I had to wear it today because today is about getting down to business and making money together again, TShoe. So thanks for the present, brother.
Yeah, of course. I'll get you. Got to think about what I'm going to get you this year. But yeah, that was a pretty good gift by me, if I do say so myself.
It was fantastic. It's a high quality hoodie too. So the thing is, we don't know. We'll have to the teams will tell us. Like, I always pretend I'm going to write a novel and I never do. But I've taken a million different writing classes, and people talk a lot about, like, some people know exactly where a book is going to go, and others say they just start with characters and an idea, and the characters tell them how the book should go. That's how we are, TShoe. The teams will tell us.
Yep.
We don't know who our best bets are going to be during the course of the season. The teams will tell us, and that will determine what hoodies we're buying each other with all of our money by the end of the year.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about one of the teams that I think might be in contention for this year's Rice. We're going to talk about them here shortly as one of my best bets.
All right. Well, let's see if it's Eastern Michigan, because that's the first bet we're going to talk about. Eastern Michigan is at UMass on Saturday. And we mentioned this in one of the preview shows we did. TShoe, to make money, is going to find some games that might not be high on the radar for Kirk Herbstreit and Gus Johnson and people who want to watch college football on Fox and ESPN. But they are high on the list for making dough. Eastern Michigan plus 2.5 at UMass. We found this at minus 102 on DraftKings. These teams played last year, TShoe, and Eastern Michigan won 19-17. What makes you like this game for visiting Eastern Michigan?
So you know how, like, people say, oh, if you want to get the best tacos, it's always like a hole in the wall place. It's like, don't go to Taco Bell or like whatever. You go to some hole in the wall taco place. This is how we make money. We're going to hole in the wall college football at UMass. My numbers project Eastern Michigan as a 2-point favorite here. This is one, again, that I bet early in the summer. It started to move. I bet Eastern Michigan at a pick'em early in the summer. It moved to Eastern Michigan -2. And again, now that we've gotten closer to game time, now the line has moved towards UMass. But again, I project Eastern Michigan as a favorite. And honestly, knowing kind of my process of how I put together the preseason numbers, my initial numbers were much higher on Eastern Michigan. I kind of pulled the reins back a little bit because I was like, okay, let's chill out on Eastern Michigan a little bit. So the fact that I still am showing this much value on them, I think is a really good sign. And for what it's worth, a lot of other well-respected bettors that I personally respect and follow also kind of align with this pick.
So some changes from last year. New starting quarterback for Eastern Michigan, but it's probably an upgrade. It's Cole Snyder, who played at Buffalo and was a 2-year starter at Buffalo after starting his career at Rutgers. He's going to be the quarterback from Eastern Michigan. Chris Creighton is a really good coach. He's in his 11th year at Eastern Michigan. There's some certainty, I think, with a guy like that. Eastern Michigan had a little bit of a disappointing year last year, but they still went to a bowl. So this is a really good program. UMass, Tyson Pumachan is the starting quarterback. He once upon a time was at Clemson. He was the starter last year, but he was actually hurt when these two teams played, so he did not face Eastern Michigan last year. One of the things that I'm curious about, the UMass offensive coordinator, Steve Kasula, left to become the tight ends coach at Michigan. So Shane Montgomery, who's a longtime college coach, is the new offensive coordinator. I like Chris Creighton and Eastern Michigan against Don Brown and UMass. I think Eastern Michigan wasn't quite as good last year as they're accustomed to being. They hit the portal in some key areas, and it feels like to me that Eastern Michigan might get back to their standard this year, which includes beating teams like UMass on the road.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you talk about like a season win total, if you bet a win total on either one of these teams, first of all, call the number, as they tell me a lot. Call the gambling hotline. But if you bet a season win total, I mean, this is one of those games that, like, if you bet an over, these teams have to have. So it actually should be as good as these teams can play. I think we'll see it on Saturday because, again, if you lose this, if you're UMass and you lose to Eastern Michigan or vice versa, like, what are you going to do with the rest of your season? So I think we should get both teams a game. Now, whatever that means, we'll see. But I do like the Eagles here.
All right. So is Eastern Michigan the new possible Rice, or is it your other pick?
It's my other pick.
All right. And then your other pick is a Georgia showdown. Georgia State at Georgia Tech. The campuses are just a couple miles apart. Georgia State plus 21 at Georgia Tech. We found that for minus 115 on the Caesars betting app. I told TShoe I had to shop for this a little bit. A lot of places 20.5. But I thought 21's a key number, right, TShoe? Like, it's worth, I think you could get 20.5 for maybe minus 105, minus 108. I thought minus 115, but you get to the 21 was worth it. Georgia State plus 21 at Georgia Tech, who sprung the big upset last week.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, by the time this comes out, if it's 20.5 across the board, I still would take it. Obviously, like you mentioned, if we can get a key number that's going to be a theme throughout this year. Anytime we're making bets, if we can get a key number, we obviously want to do that at the right price. 115 would be a price I would be willing to pay on that. I don't know that I'd go, like, I wouldn't pay minus 120 or minus 125 to get that. But obviously, if we can get 21, we definitely want to do that. But yeah, I think this is an overreaction. Obviously, Georgia Tech took care of business against Florida State last week. This is like a huge letdown spot. I had this game kind of circled even before the season, even before last week, because one, my numbers are much higher on Georgia State than literally anyone else that I've seen. And two, obviously I didn't know Georgia Tech was going to beat Florida State, but nonetheless, you knew they were going to kind of leave it all on the field against Florida State and then be in a prime letdown spot here this week against Georgia State. So I like the Panthers plus 21, plus 20.5 if that's all that's available, but plus 21 preferably. I only projected at 17. So, again, kind of getting through another key number there. So I really like Georgia State here plus the 21.
So when you're watching this, you like this already. Then when Georgia Tech upsets Florida State in Ireland last week, are you saying, yes, like I'm going to get some line movement that I was going to maybe bet this anyway?
Yep, absolutely. And I obviously, like, my numbers adjusted. Like, I've upgraded Georgia Tech a little bit after the win. And the biggest thing after that game, Florida State got downgraded more than Georgia Tech got upgraded in my numbers. So again, I think this is just an overreaction to that, which I knew was coming. And I'm probably going to end up betting on Florida State this week against Boston College for the same reason, because in overreaction, we saw the line go from like 22 down to it touched 14.5 at one point this week. So just huge overreactions from what we saw in week 0.
Georgia State, 2 quarterback options for them. They both might play in this game. Christian Villieu, formerly of Penn State and Pitt, the transfer, and then Zach Gibson, a Georgia Tech transfer, might end up playing against his old team, Georgia Tech, this week. If it sounds familiar, Georgia State was in the news because their coach left in February for an assistant coach job and kind of left them high and dry. They wound up with Dell McGee, who had been on the staff, has been the running backs coach at Georgia for the last 8 years and is a really good coach. And there might even be like some rally the troops. Okay, our coach left, the heck with him. Dell McGee is a veteran dude who knows what he's doing. I think is that any part of your Georgia State juice that, like, maybe you would look at that and think, oh, it's a tough spot for them, and instead, like, now it's them against the world kind of stuff?
Well, I think that just kind of goes back to like the conventional wisdom. Like, we obviously, when we're betting, like, we're going to throw conventional wisdom out the window, because that's, people are like, oh, that's an easy, Georgia State lost their coach, they lost a bunch of transfers, whatever. You can't bet on them, but like, those are the teams that you end up seeing value on, which is what we're seeing here. So like, I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty and get in the trash a little bit here with Georgia State and Eastern Michigan bets here.
Okay, so those are Tyler's 2 best bets before we get to the $500 big money bet. Before we get there, I'll throw out I would call them best bets. They should be gut bets. I mean, one of them for me, the first one is, if I'm going to talk about it, I have to back it up. Actually, we're going to do Pitt first. Pitt is minus 24 versus Kent State. Bill Landis and I on Thursdays live on KOTN are going to preview and pick every Northern game. So we did this. And then what I say there, if there's something that I say there that I think really applies to the gambling world, I'll bring it to this Friday morning show. And this is one of those cases. Kent State is probably the worst team in the MAC. Pitt is going to start Eli Holstein at quarterback and probably play both quarterbacks. I think they want to see what both quarterbacks can do. I don't think they'll take their foot off the gas. Yes, they might not show everything because they want to get ready for Cincinnati in week 2, but I don't think 24 is enough here. And so the idea of a smooth, like 35-point Pitt win against an overmatched Kent State team when Eli Holstein wants to show what is up. And I do think new offensive coordinator Cade Bell, like there might be some bumps along the way, but they also just have some pretty good skill guys. I like the things around this game. And for me, TShoe, when I make my bets, a lot of times I'm going to pick stuff that's around the football. And so it's quarterback competition, new offensive coordinator that wants to show what they're about, things like that. And 24 doesn't seem like enough. So I'll take Pitt minus 24 at minus 112 on DraftKings. What do you think of this one?
So my number is actually lower than the market here, but honestly, this is one of those that I was like, ooh, man, like I wish I was higher. Like I'm with you. Like my initial reaction to this line was like, that's not enough, but the market agrees with you. Move from 23 to 24. And I think you're getting a good number at 24 here because I would expect this to close north of 24 because I think, again, when you get a MAC school against a bigger school like Pitt, I think the market inherently is going to drive that line up. Just on name recognition alone. So if this gets to 26, 27, I wouldn't be surprised. So I think you're getting a good bet here at 24, despite my number being only 20. This is one of those that I, was a little uneasy about when I saw my projection.
Okay. And then the last one is the one I've been talking about all offseason. It's West Virginia. It's the game that I'm going to on Saturday. I'm going to take West Virginia +8 against Penn State. That's minus 110 on DraftKings. And a couple other places have the same number and the same lines. 8.5 at some places also. I got this in April at 12. I actually have an $8 bet on this at West Virginia +12, but I still like it. I think it's a one-score game. The weather, there's going to be some rain there. I think both teams are fine with that because they are going to run the ball. It's going to be hot and wet, but I think that might compress the game a little bit. And so if I can get a team that's home that I think is undervalued and is better than what the public thinks, I'm getting them at home more than a touchdown. I like that a lot. What do you think of me taking West Virginia +8?
You have been consistently on this, and I honestly hope for your sake that they win the game outright because you've called your shot. So
I have.
Out of respect for you, I hope they do. My number on the game is Penn State minus 10.5.
Okay.
So my number agreed kind of with that. Or did not agree with the initial move, but I would be on Penn State at this point. But to your point, the line is moving in your favor here. So, when you hear this and you're making your bets for the weekend, like I would bet it ASAP because this line has continued to go down. And, by kickoff, it may only be West Virginia +7 or something. So I would, grab the 8.5 while you can.
I did pick West Virginia to win this game outright, but I'm not going to come on here and tell people to bet a money line based on my wild hair because I think Garrett Green is awesome, right? So I didn't want to go that far, but I do think more than a touchdown is enough to suggest it to people. Okay. I'm nervous for real money. I'm a $3 bettor. We're about to announce a $500 big money, real money bet, TShoe. This is a new world for me, and I don't know if I like it or not. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. This is way more than I bet per game as well. So definitely hope we can do right by whichever charity we end up going with, and I hope we can. I'll let you do the honors here on the first one. Let them know what we're going to be on. All
right. So this is TShoe's favorite bet of the week, and I said let's ride with it. Follow my man TShoe. We have a charity in mind. We'll announce that, I think, next week and let you know. Again, it's a $5,000 bankroll. That's the minimum we're going to send to the charity. But if we make money, if we end up ahead, that all goes to the charity. The first $500 big money bet of the year is Notre Dame +3 at Texas A&M. We made the account at DraftKings, so we won't be able to shop for numbers for our actual bets because we want to have it in the same account. We're getting it at minus 112. TShoe, why do you like the Fighting Irish here so much?
I cannot believe the market on this game. This was one over the summer as I'm watching, the market move. This opened at a pick'em. Line started to get juiced as if it was going to move towards Notre Dame. I bet Notre Dame at a pick'em at that point in early June. The line has since obviously moved out to Texas A&M -3. I don't really understand it. All the time I talk about programs getting benefit of the doubt and things like that. I don't understand why Texas A&M has any benefit of the doubt. I know Jimbo Fisher's gone, and they brought in Mike Elko, who I think will do a great job there long term. I think getting Notre Dame in his first game at A&M is a very tall task because Notre Dame's in year 3 of Marcus Freeman. They bring in Riley Leonard, who I think is a definite upgrade over Sam Hartman, both in the passing game and with his legs. Notre Dame defense is going to be a top 5 unit by my numbers. My numbers are all over Notre Dame. I project them to win this game by about 4 points. So,
okay.
I like them +3. If you want to put some on the money line, I wouldn't be mad at you. I think Notre Dame's going to win the game.
It's funny because Notre Dame is often a team that is overrated in the preseason. That is a very public team. And I'm not sure what it is about this. Actually, I do know what it is. I think it is the offensive line. And when Bill Landis and I talked about this on the Thursday show, Landis is picking Texas A&M. Landis has moved from initially believing in the offseason that Notre Dame might go undefeated. He now has Notre Dame outside the playoff, and he has them losing this game. And it is primarily an offensive line question for him. They're going to start a true freshman at left tackle. They're going to start a sophomore at right tackle. They're playing a lot of young guys on the offensive line. I think Texas A&M does have some real guys in the defensive line, but Walter Nolan was like their big time defensive line guy. He transferred to Ole Miss. Their 5-star receiver, Evan Stewart, transferred to Oregon. They're a little bit not quite what they were when they were paying all that NIL money in the Jimbo Fisher era. Connor Wigman, I think, is a good quarterback, but I don't think Texas A&M has the quarterback advantage here. And I do think the Notre Dame defense that you talked about, Xavier Watts in the secondary, Howard Cross up front, and I'm a little bit confused. My only apprehension here is Landis, that he has moved off his Notre Dame love. But the thing about Bill, and he's just a big old teddy bear, he's not always right. So we're not going to let Landis scare us off.
Landis is the offensive line guru, so I will defer all offensive line analysis to him. But to his offensive line guru, that's why you guys pay me the big bucks to be the betting guru. Landis himself has said he's not a great bettor, so the fact that he's on A&M kind of makes me feel better about this. No offense to Bill, it's my guy, but yeah, I feel good about Notre Dame. I think they're going to win the game.
Marcus Freeman 7-4 versus ranked teams. And like they gave, for instance, Bill was talking about, he thinks this game plays out similarly to Notre Dame, Ohio State last year, right? Well, in that case, like getting 3 points with Notre Dame is a good bet if a game's going to play out like that. If we're talking about like a tough physical game that's going to like come down to the fourth quarter and be a 1-score game. So again, Notre Dame does not have to win here for us, right? So like that's part of it too, that there's the analysis of it, TShoe, but you are looking at this and saying to yourself, and it's a key number, we're getting a full field goal with Notre Dame when really you think Notre Dame is the better team anyway. To get a full field goal is what makes this the $500 big money bet. If this was 1.5, right, maybe it wouldn't be in the same place. But this is to get to a key number in what at the very least feels much more like a toss-up game. A key number like that, I really like sort of the math around this beyond just the football stuff.
Definitely huge that we're getting a key number. I mean, it would have been a bet for me either way, but yeah, I think that kind of put us over the top of this being the $500 bet. The two other factors here. One, I think home field advantage in college football is greatly overrated. Texas A&M's in particular. So I think there's some market move because of that. Or some market adjustment because of that. And then the other thing is, when I did my preliminary numbers earlier in the offseason, my numbers were even, I think my numbers in May or June were like Notre Dame -7.5. And I was like, well, I should probably get a little closer to market there. So I made a positive adjustment to A&M and a negative adjustment to Notre Dame, and I'm still this far apart. So I mean, it's a no-brainer for me.
I will say, like, Marcus Freeman's first full game as the head coach, he had coached the ball game, but was a couple years ago at Ohio State at night against a super talented Ohio State team. And Notre Dame came in and absolutely battled and fought. And that now you're in year 3 of Marcus Freeman instead of year 1. You have a guy in Riley Leonard who has been through some battles. He certainly had some injuries last year at Duke as well, but I don't think he's afraid of this moment. I don't think the Notre Dame defense is afraid of this moment. They have 2 backs they can rely on, and they have a whole new batch of receivers. They knew they needed to get more explosive throwing the ball. They have 3 transfer receivers they can throw the ball to. That's going to be tough for Texas A&M to scout and get a handle on. This is a really new offense for Notre Dame. It's going to be hard for Texas A&M, I think, to know exactly what they're going to do. And that includes Mike Denbrock as a new offensive coordinator coming in from LSU. So I think there's a lot of stuff there. And then Mitchell Evans at tight end. Like, this is Notre Dame's going to play good defense. I think we've had questions about the offense at times. They really went out and tried to upgrade that offense in a real way that just might be hard for Texas A&M to get a handle on. The more we talk about it, the more I like it. Let's make some money. The big money, no, what is it? The plus money swing. This is going to be a bet that's always going to be plus, right? That we're going to either find a money line or a parlay or something, TShoe, where we want to take a little bit of a swing at things, depending how much we like it. We'll either bet $50 or $100 on this. We are betting $100 this week on the plus money swing, because when I sent this to you and said, this is what I'm thinking, you responded with, we're aligned. And that is music to betting ears.
Yeah, we are. That's the Washington over, which I project at 56.5. So getting a really good value there. And then the Oregon over, I project at 65. So both are really, really good value on those. So I like this plus money at plus 264.
So what this bet is officially is over 62.5 for the total in Idaho, Oregon. And when Bill and I discussed Idaho, Oregon, again, last year, Oregon beat Portland State 81-7 in their opener. We know Dan Lanning is not afraid of running up the score. I picked this game. My total for this game was 73 when I picked the game. So like, all right, I'm 10 points over the over. Your number is 3 points over. So we like that Oregon over. And then Washington, another over 52.5 against Weber State. I think Washington is going to want to come out and prove what it can do. Jed Fish is going to want to prove something as a first-year coach for the team that just played in the national championship game. I had Washington almost hitting this over on its own. I have that's 69. So that's way over that. I think, and again, early season stuff with totals, TShoe, there's the math, and then there's the emotion. There's the trying to get inside the head of coaches. And a 12-team playoff gives everybody more of a chance. It's not quite as much. You have to impress the committee with big scores and that kind of thing. But I think with a new quarterback in Dylan Gabriel, they lost twice to their rival last year. These two teams, Oregon lost to Washington twice, did not have the season it wanted to have last year. Dan Lanning, now there's a lot of expectations. I think he wants to show it. I think he wants to show the world that all the expectations are correct. And look what Dylan Gabriel can do. Also, they might want to get that guy Heisman. So I think the mindset for Oregon is an over mindset. And for Washington, trying to prove that they're going to be better than people expect, picked 9th in the Big Ten in our KOTN poll, I think it's an over mindset for Washington. So when we have TShoe numbers and Doug coach brain analysis, and we're aligned with those two very separate things, that makes me think this is a good bet.
I think it is. I think you make excellent points, especially when you're talking about an FBS versus FCS. Like, there has to be some incentive for the coach to even get to that point, especially when you're talking about these higher totals. And I think you outlined exactly the case for both. They're going to want to show, in Washington's case, they're going to want to show like, hey, we're still Washington, and Oregon's going to want to kind of come onto the scene this year and get the taste of last year out of their mouth. Like you mentioned, those 2 losses to Washington. So I think from that standpoint, as well as the number, I think it's a great bet.
All right. So we will get plus 264 for our $100 bet. We'll win $364 if that one hits. So that's what we actually will bet. There may be times when I actually do it on the show and try to show you. What did I just show you? Oh, that's us at Disney World. It's in the Norway Pavilion at Disney World. Love Norway at Disney World and Epcot. I am really nervous about TShoe, I'm just going to take screenshots and show the world. That's fine. That's so good. So anyway, here's my social security number. We might make bets on the show sometimes, like me going okay, did I hit this right? Did I do it okay? We're not quite at that point yet because I still have a knot in my stomach about literally hitting a button that is going to bet 500 American dollars of our company on something that you and I said. Actually, we're not doing it. We're withdrawing. Thank you for the suggestion from our company, but I can't. No, we can. No, we have to back it up because that's the thing, TShoe. Especially you, people bet based on what you say. They bet their real money, right? Sometimes.
Yep. Oh yeah, I'm a lot. But I've had really good success with my college football, NFL, and WNBA guides that I put out. So I definitely take it seriously. I'm not saying every bet's going to win, obviously, but in the long run, we are going to come out ahead. And I do take it very seriously. I put in a ton of time. I've put in years of my life to getting my formula, my numbers to where they are. So we definitely take it serious. We definitely care, and we definitely want to make you guys some money.
Yeah. So we want to back that up. So again, that $500 big money bet is always going to be one of TShoe's things he feels really good about, and then I just sort of check in on it, and then the swing on the plus money is going to be something I come up with. But if I come up with something and TShoe is like, no, then I'll come up with something else. I'll throw stuff against the wall until TShoe signs off on it. So there's at least some algorithm, math, robot, TShoe knowledge in both of these picks. And then it's just me getting in the heads of coaches. All right, that's it for Bets of the North. TShoe, it's good to be back, baby. Look, woo!
I love
good to be back.
I love it. Doug, are we gonna mention our first quarter bet? Are we doing that?
Oh, so this is a thing for people who have watched the show 2 years ago when we did it. One of the things, the other thing, if they had a hoodie that said Ohio State first quarter overs, you would have bought me that. How many in a row? So on these betting apps, you can bet on the quarter, on the half, all kinds of over-under totals of betting against the spread for just a quarter. And you hit on a thing a couple years ago where Ohio State was just constantly undervalued. And you were hitting first quarter overs on Ohio State. How many in a row did you hit? 7 in a row or 8 out of 9 or something?
Yeah, I think we went 8 for 10 on those. There were a couple weeks we didn't bet them because of the line. But yeah, I think we were 8-2 on those a couple years ago.
So I asked you this week, hey, your best bet, there's no Ohio State first quarter over. They're playing Akron. The first quarter total is 13.5. And again, it's under the key number. If you think 2 touchdowns will be scored in the first quarter combined by the two teams, that is a win. What do you think of that bet?
Yeah, I love it. I think as my general guiding principle until further notice, if the Ohio State first quarter over is 14 or less, and the juice is minus 120 or less, I'm on it until they show me otherwise. I know the defense is going to be awesome. I don't expect Akron to really contribute to this at all, but I will be shocked if Ohio State can't put up 2 touchdowns in the first quarter against Akron.
Are you going to bet this yourself? You think you'll put a little TShoe money on that?
Yeah, I think so. Seeing that it's at 13.5, it's been too successful historically to not give it a shot.
So it's possible. Is it possible that something like that could be our $500 big money bet some week?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if that continues to hit at the rate that it was and odds makers don't catch up, we'll absolutely do it.
Okay. So that's the kind of thing too. Again, it's just how much you guys want to get into the weeds. We're in the weeds on Eastern Michigan, UMass. If you want to get in the weeds on some of the more popular games, but you find bets within that, TShoe's in those weeds too. So again, we're not trying to turn you into a bettor if you're not one already. We're just trying to help you if you happen to find this entertaining as a way to enhance your college football experience. But also, Ohio State first quarter overs are guaranteed wins. So, I'm not trying to turn you into a bettor. We're just saying if you want free money, no, that's not what we're saying. It's not free. We're just kidding. Guys, I'm and again, I say this as someone who loses more than I win. So, let's have fun. Let's try to make money. especially for charity, but mostly let's have a good time and let's just enjoy this college football season and enjoy hanging out with Tyler Shoemaker every week. TShoe, it is a blast to have you back, brother.
So glad we're back. So good to be back with you, Doug.
Let's do this thing. We'll see you guys every Friday morning throughout the season. Thanks to our producer, Mike Yorostowski. Thanks to my guy, TShoe. I'm Doug Lesmerises. And that was Bets of the North on Kings of the North.